In 2022, the U.S. Congress expanded VA benefits in what's known as the Pact Act. The Pact Act is an acronym for the Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson, honoring our promise to address Comprehensive Toxics Act. This act expands and extends eligibility for VA health care for veterans with toxic exposures and veterans of the Vietnam War, Gulf War, and post-9/11 wars. This act adds more than 20 presumptive conditions for burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic exposures. Now, under the Pact Act, if you have a presumptive condition, you won't need to prove that your service caused the condition. You only need to meet the service requirements for the presumption. Additionally, the law adds more presumptive exposure locations for Agent Orange and radiation. It requires VA to provide a toxic exposure screening to every veteran enrolled in VA healthcare. It helps VA to improve research, staff education, and treatment related to toxic exposures. This all changed under Donald Trump. In his first day in office, Donald Trump implemented a federal hiring freeze. Also in his first day in office, Trump ordered all federal employees working remotely to report to work in person without ensuring that they had suitable spaces to work in. He allowed VA Secretary Doug Collins and the head of DOGE, Elon Musk, a private citizen and not a legal official of the government, to fire 2,400 probationary employees with the VA. DOGE went on to announce that they planned on firing 83,000 VA employees within a year, but after public outcry, they backed off of this goal. Then Trump slashed resources for veterans dealing with mental health issues by cutting VCL services. Trump's VA secretary boasted that the agency was on pace to lose 30,000 employees in fiscal year 2025. Now, because of Trump's cuts and hiring freeze, the prosthetics department in Greenville, North Carolina, had to close its office temporarily. VA employees were harassed. And to put this all into a broader perspective, veterans make up a third, that's right, a third of the federal workforce. We always hear conservatives talk about how much this country respects and owes its veterans, but then they sit back and allow a 5-time Vietnam War draft dodger in Trump and another draft dodger in Elon Musk to treat its quote-unquote warriors this way. And yes, Elon admitted himself in an interview that he left South Africa to avoid mandatory service in the military. I've left the link to this in the description. Now let's take a look at our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. He's an ROTC trained officer deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, and Guantanamo Bay. He is also an ardent critic of government-provided health care. That's right. As a White House advisor in Trump's first administration, Hegseth pushed the Department of Defense to expand healthcare outsourcing to private companies for 9 million former service members. Hegseth was responsible for Trump firing his first VA secretary, Dr. David Shulkin, who served under President Barack Obama, for dragging his feet on implementing Hegseth's recommendation to outsource healthcare for 9 million former service members to private companies. Now, as the first CEO of a group called Concerned Veterans for America, Pete Hegseth was a leading advocate for turning veterans care over to the private sector. Now, in an interview he did with Fox News, Pete Hegseth criticized veterans groups for encouraging their members to, in his words, take more from the system. He was upset about lawyers encouraging them to be compensated for their injuries. Pete Hegseth also said that vets who use their well-earned benefits in service to this country lack personal integrity. Now, in Trump's first administration in 2018, CNN reported that Trump had Hegseth on the speakerphone while then VA Secretary David Shulkin was listening in, and he heard Hegseth say, and I quote, "We want to have full choice where veterans can go wherever they want to for health care." Now, this is what Dr. Shulkin recalled in his memoir, Hearing Pete Hegseth Say to Donald Trump. Now, what people who support private health care and people who support Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth seem to not understand is that the only motive of privatized health care, privatize anything, is profit. Whereas the VA's motive as a government agency is simply provide medical care for all veterans regardless. But why should Pete Hegseth care about that? No, this man's a multimillionaire who can afford the best private health care. He would need VA anyway. But now let's fast forward to Trump's second administration. In January of this year, 2026, Senate Veterans Affairs Committee ranking member Richard Blumenthal released a detailed report describing the harm and impacts that this administration's draconian directives and cuts will have on veterans' healthcare services. The key findings of the report, entitled Breaking the Pact: Impacts of Trump, DOGE, and Doug Collins' ongoing assault on veterans, is as follows. Spiking VA mental health care wait times. As of January 6, 2026, the national mean for wait times for new patients for individual mental health appointments was more than 35 days, significantly exceeding the 20-day wait time threshold for veterans to be eligible for care in the community. Now, the wait time for new patients seeking mental health services at this facility is currently 134 days. Attacks on VA research. The administration's workforce policies have had a disproportionate impact on VA's research enterprise, resulting in delayed enrollment in clinical trials for advanced cancers, those aimed at preventing dementia and heart disease and predicting stroke risk. 400,000 VA employees stripped of collective bargaining rights. Trump's VA Secretary Doug Collins abruptly canceled union contracts for 80% of VA employees, of which nearly 25% are veterans. Remember that. Now, this includes ending worker protections for mission-critical positions like mental health providers, nurses, and claims processors. Now, as I pointed out in a previous video that you can see by following the above link, Trump's Big Beautiful Bill has a new provision that does away with an exemption for veterans, which means that veterans will now have to work a certain number of hours to receive food stamp benefits. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.